Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. Tonight, I'm talking about Self Driver, directed by Michael Pierro, a down in his luck cab driver who faces mounting expenses and the unrelenting pressure of modern living is lured to a mysterious new app that promises fast, easy money. As his first night in the job unfolds, he is pulled ever deeper into the dark underbelly of society. All right, folks. I suppose full disclosure, I was sent this as a screener by Xenophobia, representative on behalf of them. So basically, I got an email come out of the blue and was asked that I want to do a screener. So yeah, I thought, why not? Let's have a look. So I don't know what the release plan or schedule is for it. I've linked the trailer for this in the description, so you can check that out. There's nothing in the description of that video. I think they're waiting until they get it confirmed, either, I don't know, cinema release, film festival, or straight to VOD. Like I said, I'm not sure what the score is, but if I get an update as to what's happening, obviously I'll let you know. So this is a full feature. It's not a short. It's a full feature, hour and a half long, indie production. And honestly, for the most part, I enjoyed it. Actually, it's a real decent look at somebody that be in this situation. You can just see that the guy, he's basically their equivalent of an Uber driver. You know, landlord's ringing him, he won't answer. He just everything is going wrong. Yeah, I'm driving solo tonight. There you go. I'll give myself one. Yeah, like I said, I was sent a screener. Wasn't planning to do a stream tonight, but here we go. Thought there's the only chance I'm going to get to check this out, or I'm going to have to wait another week. Which, nah, if somebody's decent enough to send me a movie to check out, I'm going to try and do it. So, like I'm saying, it's an indie production. It's limited number of cast members, but bloody hell, it does great stuff with what it has. I'll say that. I'll get all the positives out of the way, and really the negatives don't come until the end. Like at the start of this, the pacing's great, the atmosphere's great. There's a thing where the app makes you go accept job and starts counting down, and you actually feel yourself going, press the bloody button, press the button, and all of a sudden you twig yourself on going, I just got invested in that scene. So that has to say something about a movie when you're actually, you know he's going to press the button. It's a whole part of the plot. But when you're actually inadvertently getting like invested in it, you're like, oh right, okay, there's something good happening here. We see by the way, nobody really has a character name except Nick, the dodgy app provider. He approaches him one day in his car, but D is the driver. He's just going through the daily grind. And to be honest, if I hadn't lived in America for a while and understood the Uber driver culture, none of this would have flown over my head. So, for those of us in the sensible world, basically, Americans are pampered children. They expect, like, it's the equivalent of jumping in a black cab, right? But they expect bottles of water, sweets, little toilets. They want the driver to pamper them and pat them in the head and stuff and tell them they're fantastic. Like, it's kind of tragic what hoops a driver has to jump through just to get, and it's all about chasing that 5-star rating. Because if you've only the way the app works, unless you've got like 5 stars, then you're not going to get recommended for jobs. But then the 5 star, I'm just giving my own 2 cents worth on the whole culture of it. The idea of a 5-star review is meant to be exceptional, but it becomes a standard, so it becomes worthless. So it's stupidity. It's once again, it's an example of something that might have seemed like a good idea, just got out of hand because, Americans always take everything too far. But his car is like, it's not just run down, but I mean, there's rips in the seats, there's he's stuff all over the place, it's dirty in the back, like he's proper in the shit. And we'll get a sort of insight into his life. His girlfriend's called Babe, that's the it's actually quite clever. the way they've done this, because you know how hard it is if you're creating a story. Characters are the worst thing. You're sitting going, "Oh god, now I have to think of another name. Oh no, they've just talked to somebody. Now I've got to think of another name," and it's horrible. You automatically go to people you know and stuff, and you're trying to not do that, and then you're thinking random names, and it just gets silly. But Babe, um, knowing that he's out on the grind, because let's be honest, if you're an Uber, Lyft driver, taxi driver, you're on the grind. There's no if buts or maybes. You're just trying to squeeze every penny you can out of it, and people will just rub you up the wrong way. And God, there was somebody like, he started the journey, like, oh wait, I forgot something. Can you go back? But he's because the way the app's set up, there's no thing for that. It's stupid, and you just see him getting ground down and ground down. And then when Babe calls, they've got a baby, and of course she's only calling him because she wants a break. But he's out grinding. And it's one of them, check it, Wayne. She wants him out earning the money, but she hates what he has to do to earn money. Sort of, you can actually hear the resentment of they're both not happy. They're both in a situation, and it's just, it's palpable. That's one thing. The acting in this is quite decent, apart from two characters who are shit. But yeah, then Nick gets into the back of his car and goes somewhere, and it's all quiet. And he's like, "Hey, how much are you earning?" Blah blah. How about this? And slips over the business card, and it's this app called Lenomo. And yeah, he's out. Then we're going through. They spend a good 10 minutes, setting the scene. So it's not just boom straight away. I mean, you're getting the idea of the desperation. Landlord calls again. He's filling up the car. That was a very point thing, because anyone that lives in today, understands that. You're just putting that thing in, the meters get up, and the price of petrol is ridiculous. It's just all expense, expense, expense. Oh, there's Fleeing as well. Harry, man. Good to see you. Yeah, exactly. Oh dear. But yeah, of course, that's the whole temptation thing, is that, oh, how much are you earning? Oh, you can make 5 grand a night. Now, anyone with half a brain is being told, oh, you can make 5 grand a night just from doing this thing. You're either being scammed or you're doing something illegal. Like, let's be honest. And that's fair enough. If you're prepared to do that and roll the dice and take the consequence of whatever. But the thing that annoys me is this guy, the main character, is acting as if he doesn't know what he's getting into. And you're sort of like, mate, come on. Somebody approaches you and he's all like, yeah. I worked briefly in a call center, my only time, and I'll never do it again. And we used to have people ring the thing, and I didn't know this was a thing, right? But people would ring you from other call centers trying to poach you. You'd be like, "Here, I'm from such as. How much are you on at the moment doing that?" I like the way you answered the phone. And you're just like, "Huh? Yeah. Here, take my details, and sure, if you're not happy where you are, give us a call." And I remember hanging up and going, the ones that were there, and some were more experienced than me, because I was only doing it as a temporal. I'm like, "Does this happen?" They're like, "Yeah, all the time. I bounce between here, there," and it's basically there's a whole racket going on of call centers poaching other call center staff, and there's people specifically ringing them up to see how they answer the phone and stuff, and then decide whether the kind of if they're worth trying to get on board. It's mad. And that's what just this reminded me of, just the guy handing over the card the way he did and said, "Oh, you're earning this much," But the way the the rate of pay made him go, nah, anyone else, alarm bells will be ringing. This guy's just, Right. He's not a sympathetic character. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, going around the houses here. The main character here is not sympathetic. You really have no sympathy for him. I don't know if you're meant to or not. I don't know if that's the intention, but you really, anything that happens to him, you're not bothered about, because he's not a good family man. You just don't get that impression. snarky, though I'm snarky, so yeah, I sort of see that as well. But he's just not. You're not getting the idea of somebody just trying to do their best. You sort of get the idea of somebody with limited options in life because they don't have the ability. He talks about how he lost his job in an office because of a merger, and he was the one kicked to the curb because somebody else was better than him. And you realize that he's just somebody that's coasted, doesn't try, doesn't put the extra effort. And I'm not saying you break yourself for a job. No job's worth killing yourself over. But you be present. He's just one of these people that did the bare minimum. You could just tell by his whole persona and everything else. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's what I was getting from this, the character, the way he's acting. And do you know what? Fair enough. If that's what we're meant to see. But it then doesn't follow through towards the end, which is the shame about this thing. But yeah, he's trying to ring, what is it? He's trying to ring the app to see when his next payment is. And it's weekly, and he just had one, what I mean, he's in one of them places where he needs the money in to do it. So we're all getting a sense of desperation. And I think the final straw was when he's taking these couple of girls, picking them up, and they've just come out of the nightclub or something, and then one of them barfs. And you're just like, nah, he's just like, nah, because basically that's him off the clock, has to clean the car and stuff. So that's coming a mile away. But yeah, it all sets up for him basically finally caving in to go to see Nick to get the app deleted or installed or to sign up. So when he turns up, if somebody's taking your phone off you saying no, you don't get it in the Google Play Store or whatever the i thing is, if they're taking your phone off you and not even letting you see the website and they're going beep 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 beep, beep. Oh, by the way, don't worry about the terms and conditions. Blah, 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 yeah. If you're not seeing red flags at that, then you're an idiot. You know what I mean? You deserve everything that happens to you. But the interesting bit, it's almost like don't feed the gremlins after midnight. The guy goes, right, do not talk to the customers. If you refuse, if you cancel the job, you lose everything. You lose your night's earnings. And what was the other one? Yeah, if you don't if you don't meet certain targets, you'll lose money through penalties. So that's fair enough. So he starts off, and this is the thing that really got me because I like to see where I'm going. I hate driving blind, waiting to be told, and then the app just goes drive to the motorway, turn left, turn right, and you don't know where you're going. It's all meant to be part of the secrecy. But I've tried that. It was once because I didn't have a phone. I was doing a driving job and I didn't have the phone holder, so the phone was sitting down beside me. And I was just waiting for it, and I couldn't get a read of where I was, especially when you're like on the M25 and stuff. And I'm freaking out because I hate that. I hate not knowing at least a couple of stops ahead where I am or where I'm turning off and stuff. Not that I care where I'm going. You go where you go, and that's it. But this is supposed to build all the secrecy. But I was getting secondhand agitation because yeah, the app was like, right, turn left, and he didn't do it. And then he lost like $50 off his fee and blah blah blah. And that was the app sort of, testing him, so to speak, to make him understand the rules. Because was it the first job? Yeah, it was something like the first job, and that was it. He was just getting, directed to the place, and then he ended up losing all the money that he'd earned. And then his first actual job with the the customer is this girl who is obvious some sort of call girl or whatever, and not even in the car 2 seconds, and he's breaking the rules. He's trying to talk and stuff and look, and do shit, and you're like, mate, you were told not to do it. How hard is it just to drive? And you're like, what the hell? And then even the girl breaks the rules. So you think if you're, this is where I have a problem with the movie. Is this is supposed to be some sort of secret app for underworld activity. and she's obviously a call girl going to a party. So therefore, if they're paying this, because you think about what he's getting paid, then what the company's getting paid to use the service for the discretion and all, she obviously earns enough to do whatever, but she doesn't book a car going back. And then straight away she's like, "Could you wait for me?" And you're just sort of like, "What the hell?" Surely you would know. Like if you're getting a normal taxi or what, you would book your taxi come back, wouldn't you? You would. You're going somewhere. You're only going to be half an hour, so you book the other one coming back. You wouldn't actually even pay for waiting time, would you? You would just do it. So this is where it kind of falls off the rails a bit. And of course, his next job comes in because he's technically finished that one, and then we get the whole, you know, please accept, and then start going 5, 4, 3, basically last chance sort of thing, and then he goes off to do the next job. Yeah, that's it. It's a great modern story. The concept, the characters, and that I got it. I was actually really enjoying myself. This second character, the second pickup, was an absolute arsehole. And once again, he's one of those, "Hey man, down with the system, man, you're doing what you're told." I don't know what the word for that type of American is, but they're the most annoying freaking idiot you'll ever come across. Just listen to this guy. It won't shut his mouth the whole journey. Keeps talking, and even the driver's like, "I'm meant to just drive, not meant to speak to you." "Oh, fuck the rules, man!" And you're like, "What the hell?" And is this because there's a lot of unnecessary dialogue in this, and I'm wondering, is this maybe a lack of confidence with the creator that they feel like there has to be dialogue, or is this the society we're in now, or the culture that people can't deal with movies that don't have basically little to no dialogue and relies on actually cinematography to tell the story? Is that what this is a symptom of? That this should have been him as a witness to another world. That's why I was looking at the story. He should have been basically um, a herald, or what's the word? My God, I forget the word. Somebody's made to bear witness to events. Can't remember the name. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. But that's it. He's bearing witness to this world, and he gets a glimpse into it through his experiences, and that should have been enough. As each one going. But I don't think there was the confidence to do that. So we had to have all this whole string of dialogue to fill the empty space. And I think that's representative of today's culture and today's storytelling. There's a massive lack of confidence to do these because I grew up on all these type of weird and quirky stories and stuff, so I love them. And there's a time and a place. Sometimes you just need something with limited to no dialogue, and you just let the expressions on the face, the actions, the music, everything's carries you along, and you go along a journey. But today, can't do it. Can't describe a scene. Can't, and I just think that's because it's not the ability of the director. Don't get me wrong; it's not the ability. This is a bloody well shot movie. I mean, the actual cinematography, the camera shots, the music, the sound. That's one thing actually for an independent production. The sound in this is brilliant. That's what one thing I always pick up and notice with indie productions is they can't get the sound right. Um, so it's not like the ingredients were there. All the ingredients were there for him to do this. And we'd seen it at the beginning. I think that's what got me as well. When we saw the intro, him leading up to meeting Nick, he wasn't really, very little dialogue. So, and the other characters could have done a bit of dialogue or been on the phones or something briefly, and this would have been enough to carry the story. But for some reason, when this second character gets into the ride, um, yeah, that's it. It's just yap 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 yap. Um, Bloody annoying. He goes to do what he goes to do because I'm not going to spoil this, by the way, because you sort of get the idea. but I'm not going to spoil how the whole story goes because really it's worth a check out because this is actually an original idea. This is a story using the modern world, using things like apps. Because if you've seen people in the gig economy, it's horrendous, it's soul destroying, and everybody basically does well except the person having to do the actual bloody work. That's just the way it is. And what was the idea was somebody to make a bit of cash in their spare time has become another grind, and just making life miserable. And yeah, that's a horror story in its own. So using this premise, which is unique to this age, let's be honest, you couldn't have made this film 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. You couldn't really made this film. It's a movie of today. And this is a point I'm making as well. You can tell new stories. This idea of reboots, remake, rehashes, retreads, prequel, requel, shite. You can tell new stories, and this is an example of it. So I don't want to pan on it too much. I want to emphasize that this is actually a good film, and I'm glad I got to watch it. And it's a movie of today without, oh, more importantly, no political messaging, not trying to tell you how to think. You are invited on a journey, and it's up to you where your moral compass lies, is how do you feel about his choices. What's wrong with that? Let the audience make up their own mind, put an ambiguous, put a scenario, give the reasons for the scenario, let watch him carry out his actions, and then you decide yourself whether he was in the right or in the wrong. And everyone has a different perspective because everyone has a different upbringing, everyone has a different life experience. So that's what views your, you know, there's no 100% right, 100% wrong answer. Because what would you do if you've been in that situation or the things you've done? That's good bloody storytelling. But this is the bits that are niggling at me. That second uh customer who hints that he's used this service many times, so he should bloody he knows the score, but still he's just being a dick. And then he tries to direct them, no, don't do that, don't do this. And he knows that basically these guys are bound by the app, you know. So that all went on. Notice I left out all the bits about what happened because, yeah, you want to check this out. Yeah, that's it. And I've said this before. You can forgive the special effects, you can forgive bad acting if the story isn't in there. And this is where people are glossing over, especially with I don't know, the factory made Hollywood type stuff. They're just we don't need a story, we just need flashy lights. And it's the stories, everything. And it's the hardest bit, but it's also the cheapest bit. You write a good story, or you have a good collaborator, and you write a good story and translate it into a good script. Everything else, you have the good bones there of a movie, book, short story, whatever it is. You skip over that part and you have nothing. There's people like another thing that annoys me is these tourists coming into the horror genre and they think, oh, I know, I'll put a bunch of gore in it and that makes it a horror story. No, it doesn't. There is very little to no gore in this movie. Yeah, there's very little to no gore. I'm just trying to think of the scenes. Yeah, there isn't. This is not a gory movie. It's still a bloody horror movie because it's showing that dark side of things, and a lot of things are implied. So you don't need it to be the Hostel 27 or Saw 59 or whatever that they're on now. It doesn't need to be that to be a horror movie. It's that sense of dread, the sense of uncomfortableness, the sense of desperation and wrongness in the world. That's what you need for it to be a horror movie. And this has the ingredients. It just jumps the shark at the end. Um, there's this, but this. Sorry, this was the third guy. So I left out the second guy. I left him out. I'm not talking about that one because it'll spoil it. But it sort of shows what the app's about. Sorry, there was a second customer, but we're not going to talk about him because spoilers. Um, the third one gives this guy a little baggie, gives the driver a little baggie of two sugar cubes, but it basically hadn't loading them. A little pick me up. And here's the thing, right? You're right. By this stage, you're three pickups into the night. You're and it's following the formula. Every encounter's getting more intense, which is rightly so. I get that. And intense in different ways. You're involved in some gnarly shit. What does Dum Dum do? He takes one of the things, you're like, mate, come on. What was it? Don't judge me, but back in the day, I remember, God, what would you call that, Toby? Through the Never, the absolute god awful shite Metallica movie, and they did it there as well. They were starting all this, and then they see your main guy, and he goes and pops a pill, and then that fucking ruins the whole plot of that whole thing. And that's that's basically what this does. You don't if you've done something dodgy and somebody gives you a bag of something, you don't know what the hell it is, you've never taken it before. Eh, don't take it while you're on the job. Is this a junkie thing? I don't understand junkies. But would you not wait till you got home, and actually earned your money? Go home, lock the door, put on your favorite music, and then zone out or whatever. You don't. Oh, here's something illicit substance I haven't tried before. You know what the hell? It's the last pickup. Has also the second dickhead character. Um, you see them in the trailer. I'll just say that the ones wearing black, you see them in the trailer. That's pretty much what you expect. It's going that sort of way. What's hinted at in the trailer anyway, so I'm not really spoiling that much. But this is where the whole story falls off the rails because then everything that he was told by the app then goes out the window because it's just there was a setup, payoff, and then it just gets stupid. That it really annoyed me because it's almost like they ran out of ideas or they had to pad out 20 minutes of this movie. That's actually what it felt like. I don't know how they could have. Well, they should have let that. Jesus Christ, I'm trying not to spoil this. They should have let that thing play out. Maybe done one more, and then that's it. And he went off as an observer. As in a good ending scene would have been pick up next job, if that makes sense. And we'll see it hovering whether he's going to say yes or no. But it doesn't do that. It just completely goes off the rails and undoes all of the, I don't know, all of the drama, all of the build up that was seen of somebody getting invited into a dark underbelly of a world. It gets ridiculous. Um, and at the end, he's no better off than when he started. Something like a three wishes thing, he wished for everything to be back to normal. That was a waste of a night. It's the last 10 to 15 minutes of this movie just spoils it, just ruins it. And it's a shame because I was actually invested. I was watching this. I wasn't just watching it as a reviewer. I was watching it and enjoying myself. I think that's what gets me. I was actually, engaged. And like I said, a little bit with the countdown, the app's doing the countdown. I'm like going, could you press the bloody button? Come on. Stop diddling about. Get on with it. And I wanted to see where it went. I wanted to see what happened. And it just became very contrived. And once again, is this a confidence thing? We've talked about this before. We tried to have the talk about highly sensitive people, and I want to have the talk in virtue signaling in horror because we've got this, and it's back to the tourist thing. We've got people, because horror has, we're seeing everything else go to rat shit. Every other genre is falling on its arse, and horror has stayed consistent, especially over the last 10 years. Horror's been horror. Some shit ones, some great ones. It's always been like that anyway. That's just the nature of the genre. There's a lot of cheesy stuff, and there's some fantastic stuff as well, and memorable stuff and things that stand the test of time. We've also had our own shitty remakes. The Crow 2024, Speak No Evil, not even 2 years after the original came out. What I mean? We've had our uh, shit like that, and another bloody Exorcist movie that nobody needed. So yeah, we're not infallible, but we're definitely a stronger genre than any other one out there. And what we're having are all these people coming in who don't understand the genre, aren't fans of the genre, but they think they can just create because they think it's only horror and horror fans are stupid and they'll just slap anything up if they throw a bit of blood and gore in it. And we're getting that attitude, the same one that was prevalent during the 80s. That, ooh, you're a horror fan. That sort of, ooh, I'm only going to create for horror fans till I make it properly. We're getting a bit of that. And you can argue with me and challenge me and say I'm wrong, but I think you know I'm right and you see it out there. Is this an example of that? Is this an example of, because all this sanitization, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, oh, it has to have a happy ending, oh, it must be sanitized. Um, I think this might have rubbed off on the director. I think this is somebody that's plugged in and is aware of that sort of culture and maybe didn't have the confidence to finish it off properly. And yeah, I think that's what he suffered from in this. It was just that had to tie it up neatly, maybe ran out of ideas or didn't know how to finish off the story in a satisfying way, and then we got what we got, which is a bloody shame because, like I said, I enjoyed this for the most part. I enjoyed most of the movie. It was a really great premise, and the acting and everything was, apart from two characters, was done really well. It was just suffered from, yeah, I'm going to put it down to a lack of confidence to make it a truly dark story. I'll put it like this because this could have been the sort of story that stayed in your brain and rattled about in there and made you feel really uncomfortable. But it didn't. It stepped away from that. It wouldn't step over that line, and that's where this is going to, I suspect, become just another generic indie movie and fade into obscurity and not be. It could have been another master. It could have been another Taxi. It could have been another Exorcist. There was a chance there for it to be that with minimum special effects. It was purely this is a psychological horror, but it wouldn't step over that line and wouldn't let you go there. It had to make everything nice and neat, and yeah, that's where it fails. But there you go. Obviously, I recommend you check it out because it's refreshing to see story. It's refreshing to see modern storytelling and modern original storytelling and storytelling of this age. Because, like I said, you couldn't do this 20 years ago. It's a story of this time, and there's nothing wrong with that. And even when people go into the future, this will be more so cemented in. Yeah. That's I've got the first 10 volumes plotted out. Okay, so I know what the first 10 volumes are going to be. I don't think you can do that because, right, storytelling is time, like a particular theme. Let's say cryptids, for example, right? You could have a cryptid in medieval times, you could have a cryptid in the future, you could have a cryptid in the present. Look at hauntings. Hauntings takes place in the past, present, and future. If you look at the hauntings, volume one, There's stories there from every age, including modern times. But the theme. That's the thing. You don't have to be limited. It's just what they've done with this. This could easily have been, let's use the alien universe. This could have been a space trucker doing space trucker things in the far future and falling into the same sort of trap. Just, um, yes, look at the Pirates. I know it's a shit movie, but Alien Resurrection. Look at the Pirates. They got roped into transporting, stealing humans and cryo sleep so they get experimented on. So I don't think you can set stories in a particular era. You know, it doesn't have to be. The theme is, what are you trying? What sense of dread? What are the connections? But if you've seen already, and I hope it continues, and I've no doubt it will, because I'm getting some very talented people coming on board, and it's fantastic. But you look at the different stories I've had in 2 volumes already, you know, and each one has its own flavor, and it's not just a rinse and repeat of each one. So it is possible. And if you can see that from, but I mean, we don't have to be the corporate. There's still plenty of imagination and spark out there. Let's just keep helping it along and supporting it when we can. But yeah, obviously, once I find out more about this, I will let you know. But just leaves me to say, until next time, keep up to date with the channel, do the type of things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.